Hey, what's up, everybody? So I was planning to take a day off, get some relaxation, but today was a pretty chill day and I had some time. And so, what the hell do you do when you have some time on Christmas Eve? You look at Christmas Day NBA games. So, got some stuff and figured I'm not going to do this tomorrow on Christmas Day, but thought I'd go ahead and walk through these games, share a little bit of what I found, and see if we could find a couple good spots heading into Christmas Day. I do just want to say too, appreciate all of you who have been following along, watching these videos, interacting on Twitter and stuff. Hope you all have a Merry Christmas and got even got the Christmas shirt here for you. So let's jump into it. I don't know if I have these games in the right order or not, but I'm just going to go through them the way I got them. So the first one I got is the Celtics and the Bucks, and the big thing here is that Giannis may be back for the Bucks tomorrow. Now, even if he's back, how do we know how much he's going to play? We don't. I would imagine the NBA wants him to play on Christmas Day. They're short of stars with all this COVID stuff going on. Oh shoot! I don't know if you can hear me. Well, we're gonna hope so. Nope, that just mutes it. Oh shit. All right. There's somebody in here. If you can't hear me, will you let me know in the chat so that I can figure out what's going on here? And if you can hear me, that's great. So yeah, we'll see how much Giannis plays for the Bucks. And going up against Boston, who have, been super inconsistent and not playing incredibly well. Their last five, they scored 111, 103, 114, 107. They've been around that 105 to 110 kind of range. In terms of key stats that I would look at here, number is Boston's 3-point percentage. First of all, when it's 34 or better, they're 5-2 in December. So pretty good. 0-4 under that in December. Oh, yes. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. No, I'm not just freaking talking to myself here without anybody being able to hear me. Appreciate it, man. So yeah, looking at Boston's 3-point percentage, they've gone over 34 in 4 out of their last 5, only 6 out of their last 10. So a good run in the last 5. Before that, not so good. Milwaukee allows only 31.9% from 3-point range at home, though. They've held teams under 34 in 3 out of the last 5 and 4 out of the last 10. And so again, we get like Boston's a team that's been shooting it a little bit better, but Milwaukee also defends the 3 pretty well. Boston also doesn't shoot the 3 quite as well on the road as they do at home. Boston did shoot 40 or better in 4 of their last 5 versus Milwaukee specifically, though. So this is where we have one of those weird things where Milwaukee is not a bad team defending the 3, but at least in, and that's over the span of a few years. But Boston shot it well against Milwaukee from 3-point range. The other stat that I look at here is Milwaukee's rebounds. So a key number for them is 46. When they're at 46 or better, they're 6-1 in December and only 2-4 when they're under that number straight up. Boston allows 43.3 rebounds on average, and they've kept opponents under 46 in 4 out of their last 5 and 7 out of the last 10. So again, I think that this, that number looks pretty good for Boston. And honestly, the shooting doesn't look bad for Boston either. When we look at the trends that I found, there is pretty strong trends to the over. The last 4 games where Boston's played Milwaukee, all 4 have gone over the total. And then pretty strong trends toward Boston as well. So Boston's 5-0 in their last 5 against the spread against Milwaukee. It's tough to gauge with Giannis coming back obviously he's played with the Bucks now for a long time, so they know how to play with Giannis. But you never know how that first game back is going to hit. This is a game that I feel like is a little bit tough to get a read on. If I was going to take a lean here, though, I would probably take the points with Boston. I'm not sure what that's up to now. Let me see if I can check that quick. It's at 3.5 right now. I think, if Giannis is in for sure, I don't think that's been announced yet, but if he's in for sure, I wouldn't be surprised if that number jumps a little. So if you are interested in Boston, I would say probably wait, let Giannis get ruled in, and maybe then you get 4.5 or 5 out of this. But if I was going to pick a side, that's the way that I would lean in this one. Second game up is the Hawks and the Knicks. This one, honestly, at first I was like, man, do I even try to break this shit down? Because the Hawks have nobody in. They've been pretty bad in the two games that they haven't had anybody back, although they did beat Philadelphia, which I think just says more about how bad Philadelphia does than it is anything about Atlanta. But I did actually go look up some numbers here, and I think this game actually gets a little bit interesting. So first of all, let's talk about Atlanta's scoring. They scored 98 exactly in both games so far where they had this like half a roster. They did rebound decently well. They had 46 and 49. Thanks, Slip, for the encouragement. Appreciate that. 46 and 49 in those two games. Their field goal percentage was 40% in the loss, 45.1% when they played Philadelphia and won. They actually only shot 29.2% from three, which is terrible, and still beat Philadelphia. In those two games, I think it is interesting that their defensive rating on the season is 112.3, but their defensive rating in those two games was 109.3 and 111.9. This is key, I think, because in this game, a key to me is if Atlanta can play decent defense to keep the Knicks close offensively. I think the Knicks' path to dominating this game and covering the spread where it's at right now is to just score. Like if the Knicks score a ton of points, they could run away. Sorry, I'm reading stuff in the chat and then coming back. Hey, Chris, DM me, man, and I'll get back to you about that. But yeah, so back to Atlanta, 109.3, 111.9 on the defensive rating. Offensive rating is 113.7 on the season. They've been at 111.5 and 105.5. So obviously the 105.5 isn't great, but 111.5 is not bad. So while Atlanta, it doesn't have a great roster right now, like honestly, they haven't played terribly according to the numbers. And I think that could give them a chance against a New York team that's really terrible. I mean, I know Kemba's had this like mini resurgence the last couple games, but the last game he had a huge game and they still lost to Washington without Bradley Beal. And so looking at why that's the case, if you jump in here, the Knicks have just been atrocious on defense. That's what it comes down to. In their last 10 games, their average defensive rating is 116.8. For the season, the league worst defensive rating is Charlotte at 114.9. So, I mean, it's only a 10-game sample. I get it, and they're better than that on the season, but they're playing like league worst defense right now. Their defensive rating against Washington was 132.8. They had another game in here against Indiana, 129.4. Really, this would look a lot worse, except that their defensive rating against Detroit a couple games ago was 92.6. So they did have one good game defensively, but all the rest have been trash. And so I think this Knicks team could lose to anyone right now. And I was actually interested initially in the Hawks team total under here because I think it was at 100.5 or 101.5, something like that. And they'd only scored 98 in these first two games. But I think the Knicks are going to be the worst defense that they've played. And so I can't trust that enough to take a Hawks team total under here. When we do look at the trends, also, I don't go to the trends first, but they are something that I do at least look at. The Knicks are 3-14 against the spread on one day of rest, and they're 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 at home. So this is a team that's just hemorrhaging and absolutely terrible. And so if I was going to lean one way or the other, I would actually lean toward Atlanta here, even though they have a lot of their team out. I just think the Knicks are so bad that they could lose to anyone right now, especially the way they're playing defense. But it's a little bit hard to take an Atlanta team that has everybody out like they do. But those are just some of the numbers I looked at. I think to me, it's hard to make a bet on a team that's as bad as the Knicks are defensively right now. I wouldn't trust them for anything, but I think Atlanta's interesting with the points tomorrow. Next game is probably the main game left that's any good, and that's the Warriors and the Suns. The Warriors obviously are without some key pieces, without Wiggins and Poole. Iguodala, I think, is a game time decision. I know they've been trying to manage him a little bit, but hopefully he'll be able to play. Phoenix on the other side is healthy. At least that's what we think right now. Obviously, people can get ruled out all the way up until game time, but it looks like they're healthy. And honestly, Phoenix has been playing awesome again. I think Golden State and Phoenix, when we've seen both these teams healthy this year, they absolutely just roll on people. And that's where Phoenix is back at now. I'm not sure Golden State is there again yet, partly because they have people out, but there are some numbers here that we can look at too. One of the key things I'm looking at here is Golden State has one of the most pronounced differences between being at home and away this year. So at home, their offensive rating is 115.6, and away, it's only 109.7. Their defensive rating at home is 100 flat, which is phenomenal. Their defensive rating away is 105.8, which is still really good, but a 5-point difference in defensive rating is pretty significant. So it's like a 10 or 11-point difference, offensive and defensive rating combined, home and away for the Warriors. Their field goal percentage drops about 3 points, and their three-point percentage drops 6 points. One of the other things I'm looking at is that while Steph got the three-point record and he's a phenomenal three-point shooter, he actually hasn't been shooting as well this year as he was last year, or I mean, over his career. So for his career, he's 44.1% from three-point range at home, which is amazing, and 42.2% away. This season, though, he's only shooting 37.1% on the road. So obviously 31.7 or 37.1% is phenomenal, and any team would like that. But for Steph, it's not great. In addition, when we saw these two teams play, and especially in the first game, you saw that Bridges was at least able to slow him down a little bit. Now, nobody's going to fully stop Steph, and Steph's capable of going off in any game against anybody. But Bridges has as good a chance as almost anyone in the league to slow Steph down, I think. And for a team that is depleted with some of their other players, if Steph doesn't really get it going in this game, I think Golden State could be in a little bit of trouble. I mean, I'm not sure how much you can lean on Gary Payton. I love Gary Payton Jr., by the way. He's super fun to watch and has been great, and he's been shooting phenomenally. But I think that's one of those spikes that you can't really count on continuing. So, man, it's a bummer that we're missing a couple people on the Warriors because this is the best game out there right now for the NBA. In terms of trends that we look at, a fun one since it's Christmas edition is that Golden State has actually lost 4 of 5 games on Christmas in the last 5 years. And 3 of those 5, they were under 105 points. The reason that matters is that the team total right now is either 105.5 or 104.5, depending on where you look. And that's actually going to be something that I'm interested in. When you look at the trends, here's another reason I'm interested in the under is there are a lot of under trends for the Warriors. The Suns are a little bit more mixed on the trends that are Suns specific, but the ones that are Warriors specific definitely lean toward the under for Golden State. The under also is 10-1 in the last 11 matchups between these two teams. So there's a really strong under trend for this specific matchup. And then when you look at the spread trends, that definitely leans toward Phoenix, though there weren't any trends that I felt were so strong that they were worth paying a lot of attention to. So in this game, one of the spots I do like to take a shot on is Golden State under 105.5 or under 104.5, whatever you find. That always feels hard to do with Golden State because we know that they can erupt, but hopefully that makes some sense based on the info that I was just sharing there and some of the stats. This next game, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Unfortunately, the Nets and the Lakers is sort of a crap game this year. So many people out, especially for Brooklyn. I mean, I was looking over their injury list and COVID list, and it's like, I don't even know who I know Harden's back. Yes, that's great. But Harden hasn't looked phenomenal. And if it was Durant, I would think that Durant could win the game for them single-handedly. I'm not sure if Harden can. I just wrote here in my notes, how do you bet this game? A couple things, though, just in terms of if I was going to look at anything here, I think that it would be the under. If you go back and look at the Lakers' last 5 games, they've not been scoring the ball well. And with Brooklyn having so few people left, I'm not sure where their offense is going to come from, really. Even people like David Duke Jr., who had played pretty well offensively, even he's out now. So I just don't think there's many spots left to look for the Nets to get a lot of offense. And the total here was decent. I think it was actually like 221 or something. Let me check that quick. 226.5. Yeah. So I don't think the under 226.5 is a bad look given the way the Lakers have, I took that under in the last Lakers game against the Spurs, and the Spurs just went off. And looking back at the numbers, I think it was the right side to take, but I do understand that the Spurs have played really great away from home. We don't really have that same track record for Brooklyn, and especially with this roster. So I got myself thinking I might go do a little more research and potentially come back to the under in this game if I was going to take anything. The under is also 5-2 in the last 7 for the Lakers, so a little bit of a trend there to go along with that. The last game of the day, Dallas and Utah, and this one it looks like Porzingis could be back. That is certainly something to watch because, as I've talked about before on this stream, with Porzingis, the Mavericks are much better on offense. Though I will say these last few games they've played pretty well. I mean, they're not scoring a ton of points, but they're playing good defense and hanging in games. A few two key stats to look at here, really. One is Dallas's rebounds allowed. So when they allow 45 or more, they're 2-10. When they hold the other team to under 45 rebounds, they're 9-4. Well, Utah's had 45 or more in 4 of their last 5 and 8 of their last 10. And so that's a number that they actually hit more often than not, is that 45 plus rebounds. The other number is Utah's field goal percentage over 50. And the reason that this one's important is we've got another huge spread here. It's 12.5 or something like that. And so it's one thing to cap which team is likely to win. And Utah definitely looks better according to the numbers there. But how do you figure out if they're likely to cover a spread this big or not? And this is one of the numbers that I would look to that seems to correlate best to what kind of spread they could cover. So when they got over 50% from the field, they won by 13 or more in 9 out of 13 games since the beginning of November. Dallas has only allowed a team to shoot over 50% from the field in 1 out of their last 10. So this is a little bit of that, like you can make a case on either side, because I do think that Utah, especially with their presence with Gobert inside and stuff, they can shoot over 50% from the field. And when they do, they tend to crush teams. So I think if they can do that, they definitely have a chance here to be able to cover the 12.5 point spread. But on the other side, the one thing that Dallas continues to do is to play pretty good defense, and they don't generally allow teams to shoot that high, that over 50%. And so it's hard to take either side on that one with a ton of confidence, because I can see the case for both sides. And I know that, maybe that doesn't help. But again, part of sharing these numbers with you guys continues to be, if you have a lean you like and something here tracks with what you're seeing, number one, share it with me. But number two, hopefully that can help you out. Eric, appreciate the Merry Christmas, man. Merry Christmas back at you. A couple other things on this game that I'll just throw out. The Mavs are 1-4-1 in their last 6 against the spread, against Utah specifically. So a good trend for Utah there. But Dallas is 11-4 against the spread against Utah after a loss. Again, that one I give a little less credence to, just because that variable of the loss is not as strong to me as just the matchup specific one. There also are a lot of trends that lean toward the under on this game. And I think that if you wanted to look at taking something here, that's not a bad look. Dallas, if anything, right now plays pretty good defense. And Utah's had some huge scoring games, 128, 126, 124. But they also scored 112 against Charlotte. I mean, that's a game you expect them to go off, and they don't. They had another game in their last 5 where they scored 103. Dallas has held teams under 100 points 2 out of their last 5 away, and then 106, 107. So I think Dallas could have a chance to maybe keep Utah in check in terms of their offense here. I just don't trust that Dallas is going to score a ton. So if I was going to look at something here, I think it would maybe be the under, but that under just isn't high enough for me to like it where it currently is. I think it's 114.5 or 115.5, or sorry, 215.5. Dude, it's late. It's late for me. So 215.5. So those are the games for tomorrow. Looking back over them, I think the spots that I like best now, after just kind of talking through things, are maybe Boston, but again, waiting hopefully for that line to go up a little bit once Giannis is ruled in. Potentially Atlanta. I mean, it's a little bit of a rolling the dice because they have so many people out, but you're getting quite a few points against a bad Knicks team. The Golden State team total under, that is one that I actually did bet already, just 1 unit on it, but I did bet that one. And I'll get these out, this and anything else that I end up betting. And then I've actually got myself interested in that Brooklyn and Lakers under again after talking through that. So that's what I'm looking at. Hope you guys have had a great Christmas Eve. I hope you have a Merry Christmas. Look forward to continuing to interact with you, talk with you as we head toward the new year and looking at maybe doing some new things to get this content out in some different ways. So thanks again for watching tonight, and good luck tomorrow. Enjoy your family. Enjoy the different things you got going on for Christmas, and we'll talk to you later.